Hi, my name is Gianna Pesce, and in my audience I have Jordan, Tino, and my mom. The topic of my persuasive speech is standardized testing and why I feel that it doesn't show a true representation of one's true intelligence. Now today I'm going to persuade you guys to believe that standardized testing should stop and to inform you guys about the many different alternatives that could take place of standardized testing. Now the main points that I'm going to be telling you guys about today are the definition of standardized testing, why they are poor representations of one's level of intelligence, the negative effect that they have on students, and then also many alternatives to determine intelligence rather than standardized testing and the positive effects that that could have on students. So first, what is standardized test? According to the Glossary of Education Reform, a standardized test is any form of test that requires all test takers to answer the same questions. This test is scored in a standard or consistent manner, which makes it possible to compare the relative performance of individual students or groups of students. So now that we have defined standardized testing, let's talk about why it shows a poor representation of one's intelligence. So many school systems have inclusive classrooms, and for those of you who don't know what inclusive classrooms are, they're classrooms that include all types of students, ranging from students with disabilities to gifted students. And in these classrooms, you have poor test takers. Now, these poor test takers could be some of the smartest students in the school, but when it comes to taking tests, they get anxiety or they get nervous and end up scoring bad on tests. Now, when the state or whoever examines these tests are looking at the scores, this child or these individuals would be said to have a low level of intelligence. So even though they may be the smartest kids, because they're poor test-taking skills, they are considered to have low intelligence. Also in these classrooms, there are students with mild disabilities. So mild disabilities can include ADD or ADHD. Now with ADD and ADHD, it is hard for students to concentrate, and since these tests are being timed, sitting there for that long time makes it very hard for them to stay still and to pay attention and to keep on task. This would then lead to poor test taking, which would then lead to bad scores on the tests. Now, another reason why standardized testing is a poor representation of one's true intelligence is that some of the questions on here have questions that not all students know. Not all students have the same amount of knowledge, and it is because of uncontrollable reasons. So an example of one of these questions is from a 6th grade standardized achievement test in the subject of science. And the question reads, a plant's fruit always contains seeds. Which of these items below is not a fruit? Is it A, an orange, B, a pumpkin, C, an apple, or D, celery? The correct answer is D, celery. Now, many of you would think that that was the obvious answer, but what if you were a child who did not have the ability to have meaningful interactions with celery or pumpkins due to your parents not having enough money to buy these objects? According to James Popham, the higher your family's socioeconomic status is, the more likely you are to do well on a number of tests, and you may encounter certain things that you know of in such tests. So to me, I find that it is very unfair to relate a student's socioeconomic status to their level of intelligence. So now that we have defined standardized testing and talked about some of the reasons of why it is unfair, let's talk about the negative effect that it has on students. So if a student scores bad on these tests or is a poor test taker and they know that they can do better, they can gain a sense of low self-esteem. Low self-esteem could then lead to depression, which can lead to a lack of motivation or a lack of effort in the classroom. This could then lead to bad grades, consisting of a low GPA, and then eventually concluding in a low class ranking. Because you are so low in the class ranking, it could lead back to the main cause of low self-esteem. Now there are some ways that standardized testing has a negative effect on teachers also. According to Margie from Bright Hub Education, standardized tests can place a huge amount of stress on students and teachers alike. This can lead to negative health consequences as well as feelings of negativity directed at school and learning in general. Margie also stated that some school systems are under great pressure to raise their scores, so they have resorted to decreasing time spent in recess. This can have a negative effect on children's social, emotional, and academic well-being. So now that we have talked about the definition of standardized testing, why it is a poor representation, and also how it makes students feel, let's talk about some alternative ways to determine intelligence. One of those ways is self-assessments. And self-assessments can include online learning games or activities that assess students and keep track of their progress. According to Anya, self-assessment doesn't just show which skills a student has mastered at a given moment. The pattern of answers potentially offers insights into how quickly students learn and how diligent they are and the big picture factors. Another alternative is called a portfolio-based assessment. According to Bob Peterson and Monty Neal, during the school year, teachers and students gather work which shows students' progress and achievement in various subjects such as English or science. Students are usually encouraged to reflect on the work that has been selected. Such reflection helps the student to then think not only about what they have learned, but about their own learning processes, all of which contributes to the overall goal of improving student learning. Now, this evaluation method is based off of a wide range of student work done over a long period of time, which is a much better way than how standardized test does, which is rather than a single paper and pencil test taken over a few hours. And last but not least, you can determine a student's intelligence by simply observing them. You can observe the work of your students over the school year and keep track of their progress. You can keep track of this progress by looking at graphs and graphing their progress over the year, and also by making charts and looking at their worksheet samples. Now, these alternatives do have a positive effect on students. The students no longer have to stress and feel pressured about meeting certain standards that these tests hold. They also have a higher self-esteem, and they are also able to see what areas they are struggling in. When you score bad on standardized testing, you're not sure of what you scored bad on, so you don't know where you need more help or what areas you need more assistance in. With these other alternatives, it shows you where you went wrong, and the teacher is then there to help you and guide you towards the right way. So in conclusion, standardized testing does not work, and it is an invalid representation of one's intelligence. Intelligence can be determined differently. Observing and checking progress is a great way to look at a student's intelligence. And the right examination leads to an accurate determination of the student's intelligence. And these are my references that help me gain more insight on my topic. I would like to thank you guys for listening, and also I would hope that if you were once, or if you still are, a supporter of standardized testing, I hope that my presentation has helped you reconsider your opinion